Hi, my name is Michael Bean, and this is your free lesson for myfreeactingclass.com for Monday, October the 26th. Today, we're going to be talking about camera things, and I also am going to be doing a quick sight reading exercise and showing you a little bit about what that looks like. So, I am in the process of doing one of my first corporate workshops. I did one of these just a little over a week ago. I had somebody contact me like, hey, you have been teaching on Zoom every day. Like, why don't you come teach us about it? And I've got my second one of those tomorrow. So one of the things that I'm going to run over with you today is the handouts I'm using for that workshop, partly as a way of sharing with you the thing that I'm developing, which is one of the things that I love about this class, to be like, hey, I made this resource for a specific group, but I've got the resource. It's easy for me to share it with you, and I hope you get some value out of it. And also, it will be a sneaky way for me to practice the thing that I need to do for work tomorrow. So yes, everybody wins. Let's take a look at those handouts. We're going to start with, let me get them in the right place first. So we're going to start with basic camera technique. But I'm going to give you examples instead of just talking to you about it. One of the things that happens is as soon as you start showing people video, they're comparing it without meaning to everything they've got in their head from watching professional film and TV. And a lot of money goes into making sure that film and TV is extremely well shot, that is very, very clear. It's very, very consistent in the way that it is set up. And so paying attention to these details that help bring you into line with what people are expecting. This is one of the things that makes it less effortful for people to watch you. There's a really interesting thing that happens where it's called cognitive ease. And this is based on the work of a psychologist named Daniel Kahneman. I'll actually put that into the chat window if you like. Daniel Kahneman, he wrote an amazing book called Thinking Fast and Slow, which I highly recommend. But the basic idea is, he's a psychologist who won a Nobel Prize and studies biases and heuristics, the sort of unconscious rules that we operate under when we're looking at information. So it's a fascinating read for actors, but really just for anybody. But the idea with cognitive ease is that if something feels easy, then on an emotional level, we experience it as more right, more true, that it just feels right to us. So if you don't do the extra little bit of effort to match these kind of basic expectations that people have from watching the film and TV scene, and particularly from watching taped auditions, then the risk is that it's just a little bit effortful for them. And without knowing why, emotionally, they'll be, I don't know. It's just, it doesn't feel as right. And so this is another good reason to give yourself these basic technical things. So eyeline and shot angle, while the effect is similar, the idea is different. Eyeline is your eyes and where they are looking. Right, so the camera is fundamentally in the same place for all three of these, but this person is looking in different places. Okay, so he's looking up, he's looking too low, he's looking off to the side. Shot angle is where you're placing the camera. You're placing the camera below you, you're placing the camera above you, you're placing the camera at eye level. Now, ideally, what you want is this here, eye level and not directly at the camera, but just beside the camera. So our threatening little strange plastic man here is looking directly at the camera, which you would not want to do for a film and TV audition. You would want your eyeline just off to the side. So if we switch back to using me as an example, because I am talking to you right now, I'm going to look directly at the camera. I'm going to look close to the camera. However, if we were doing a film and TV scene, it would be very weird, if I'm doing the scene, and then suddenly I look right at you, and it's like, And so what you want is your eye line just off to one side or just off to the other side. And it's really easy if you're doing a self-tape, you can do that by positioning the zoom window. So right now, for instance, because if I want to talk to Candy, so I'm like, oh, cool, Candy's the person who's my reader in the scene, or Candy's the person in the workshop, who like I know has got my back, so I'm just going to position her right under the camera. So if I look at her, then it looks like I'm looking right in the eyes of everybody, and everybody gets the benefit of me, talking to Candy. If I'm doing an audition scene, then I can just get out of full screen. I can take this zoom window, kind of drag it off to one side. And so now I'm still looking at the same person. Nothing has really changed for me, but in a small technical way, I've changed the eye line, and this will occur differently for everybody else. So for everybody previously, where I was looking directly into the camera, now it'll look like you are witnessing this, but I'm not staring directly at you, which is the way that we are doing most film and TV scenes. So eye line to one side, eye line to the other side. Now, I personally don't have a strong preference for one side of my face over the other, but a lot of actors do. It's worth doing at least a little bit of experimenting, or even going back and looking at the 6 or 12 best photographs that you think you have of yourself and seeing, is there one side of you that is featured more prominently in those photographs than the other? I wonder. Maybe that side of you just feels more like you to you, or is a little more symmetrical, or a little more like lumpy in ways that look cool, or sort of whatever faces do. It's at least worth thinking about. But when I'm doing a scene, I don't actually have a strong preference for this, over that, as long as I'm placing them close to camera. So if we go back to those handouts, framing, we've been over so many times. Big close up, medium close up, right here. This is what we are doing for most film and TV auditions, for most taped auditions, and honestly, for most of the things you do on Zoom, if you do them in this medium close-up with the camera at eye level, not above or below, and your eye line, close to where the camera is, then people will feel like they can connect with you more. Lighting, this is overhead lighting, will give you this big shadow under your chin, very dramatic. Front lighting is really the best. Right now I'm using a very large window, and so it's giving me good even lighting and not too much shadow on the backdrop. Lighting from the bottom, you'll get this shadow over your head, and I don't know, this one just looks poorly lit. This one looks like vaguely sinister. I think because that's just the convention in a lot of drama, to use either dramatic side lighting or dramatic underlighting to give a sense of feeling. Background, and obviously this is for more relevant for the Zoom workshop I'm giving tomorrow, but I think is also useful if we are talking about the backdrop for your taped audition. The more cool stuff there is to look at in the background, this is just from some Wired article. I pulled the picture offline. The more we are looking at the cool background or your technology, this guy's big headset, the less we are looking at your eyes. We want us to be looking at your eyes. Now, if we look at this one as sort of the example, this is fine. Ideally, if this guy was doing a taped audition, he would set up with just the blank wall behind him. But even this, of these 4 options, much, much, much better. Right? Space from the edge of the frame. Now, where is here? Eye light. So the idea that we want a light reflected in your eyes, if the light source is in back of the subject, right? So if the light source is behind the person, if I'm shooting this audition and the light source is behind me, we're going to get this very faint catch light that's really just the reflection of whatever light is hitting the walls, etc. If the light source is to the side, we're going to get this light on the side. We're also probably going to get that harsh side light on the face that we saw earlier. If the light source is in front of the subject, that's when we're going to get a nice sharp reflection. And so that's why we've got this sparkly spot in my eyes. And I know it seems like the weirdest, most simplest thing in the world, but really we are drawn to look at the sparkly thing. And so you want your eyes to be the sparkly thing, the thing that grabs people's attention. In this photograph, it's 6 feet from the window or light source, and this one's about 2 feet away. Now, how you set up in terms of placement by your windows. You can use a desk lamp to point directly at you. Currently, like I said, I'm just using a window. I have experimented with ring lights like this one here, which if you're using a phone, it's a very inexpensive. I think it's like $35 on Amazon. Holds your phone. If you were doing a lot of taped auditions, you could go up to something like this, which lets you sort of set it up anywhere. You can be standing. It has a little carrying case. I think this one maybe is like 140 Canadian, on Amazon. And I've used both of these, very effective. This one, is so bright, that I can get a setup that's very much like the one I am in now, where you wouldn't notice the difference substantially in terms of quality, even when it is completely dark, even at night. I think actually the last time I did one of those tape auditions, because I had both of these, I used both of them, but really this one, is enough. It's quite a substantial setup. You also can just get creative. I have a box of Christmas lights that I just turned around to face outwards and pulled the plug out the back of the box, and that works too. So it doesn't have to be fancy, but eye light is really important. Yes, there's the piece of the workshop I'm doing tomorrow that is specifically related to how to set up for camera, and I hope that even this new idea, or if it is a new idea for you, but even this idea of, where is it? Attention control and cognitive load. You can look up both these things on Wikipedia if you are really keen. Attention control, cognitive load, and maybe I'll post those into the chat window for those of you who are here and with us now. And the idea that I spoke about previously, again, is called cognitive ease. And that's by Daniel Kahneman. His book, Thinking Fast and Slow, I can do another whole lesson or a series of lessons on it. Wonderful. But just remember, make it easy for people visually, and then they're more likely to pay attention to the story you're trying to tell them and how they feel about it and feeling connected to you. Now, the other piece that I've talked about here repeatedly, but I've got some new slides, and I might as well go over them with you, is about finding comfort or confidence on camera. And one of the things that I keep coming back to is the idea that ease looks like confidence. That really, not just actors, but everybody, we have this sense that other people can tell what we're thinking based on what it looks like and what it sounds like. And I think actors get a little bit more practice than everybody else going, oh no, no, they really can't. They're like, I think that almost every actor I know has some version of the experience of having done a performance, walked out of the audition, and gone, oh man, like it's horrible, like blew it, they're never going to see me again. And then finding out they got the call back or they booked the job, from that role. That most of the performers I know have had that experience of, say, stepping off stage and having somebody come up to them and say, wow, it's amazing. Wow, that was incredible. On the inside, they're like, that was like, oh man, like I forgot my lines, or I stumbled, or this horrible thing happened, or I'm like distracted by the fight I had with my partner before the play. Like these are familiar experiences. And so with that in mind, if you can bring yourself to a state of ease, and particularly if you know what that is like for you physically, and you can even just approach it in a somatic way. Like, let's say your brain's spinning out and you can't actually stop it from going like, what if I forget my lines? If you know what ease is like in your body and you can just notice that and keep coming back to it, it is possible for your performance to come across as confident, particularly if you wait until well after the camera turns off to do any actual panicking out loud about whether or not you forgot your lines. Right? If you just put all of that into the words, it can be very, very, very effective. So to go back to these handouts, this is the Fritz Perls quote Frederick Solomon Pearls. He's the founder of Gestalt therapy. But really, this could be from any acting class. Here's excitement without the breath. Love this quote. The fight, flight, or freeze, physical indications of fight or flight response, the dilated pupils. Actually, if this happens to you, it'll just make you more appealing on camera. It's the trembling that I think we have to address. Pale or flushed skin, rapid heart rate and breathing. Basically, if you can, and why I talk about wanting to address this physically is if you can find ways to ground out any of the shake that is in you, just so that people don't see it, even if you're still feeling it a little bit. And to get enough breath, because breath carries feeling. It is when you hold your breath that you are more likely to forget your lines, or also less likely, I think, to have the work be really active emotionally. Oh, right, I need to pull up a different thing so that I can show you this square breathing. The square breathing is something that I've been listening to a lot of Brené Brown recently. She's an expert on vulnerability. She has written a bunch of books. She has a podcast. She's a professor of social work at the University of Houston. And she did a TED Talk a number of years ago, quite a few years ago now, actually, maybe like 2012, something like that, called The Power of Vulnerability, and that has launched her career in a really huge way. And something that I heard her say just recently is that in her research, breathing shows up all over. It shows up all over the place. You've noticed it showing up all over the place. It's, meditation teachers are great. They want to talk about breathing, and acting teachers want to talk about breathing. One of the things that I loved in her social worker perspective, she's like, this shows up most in two different places: yoga teachers and special forces training. And so apparently, of course, now yoga I have done. So that makes sense to me. I'm like, yeah, yoga teachers talk about breathing all the time. You're like noticing your body and breath, using breath exercises. I had no idea that it was a huge part of special forces training, and that pleases me so much. And it makes perfect sense. If you are, intuitively, it makes perfect sense to me that if you are in a field that requires that you manage stress and manage your nerves and be able to function at an optimal level, then yeah, they're going to spend some serious time talking about breathing, because they don't want you to spin out when you're doing something that is life-threatening potentially for you or for other people. And I think the lesson to take out of that is that this is a basic human thing that just happens to be helpful and effective as a teacher and as an actor. So let me pull up this for you, just because I really like it. Square breathing. The idea is this came up also in Alan Franklin, the psychiatrist that we had come in a number of weeks ago. The idea is in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, and then hold empty for 4. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. At one point, I read something really detailed about why this is super effective in calming down your vagus nerve. And you know what? Science information is not that hard to find. If you're all you'd have to do is Google square breathing, you would find 7 different square breathing techniques with different counts or longer counts or shorter counts. But the basic idea is that deep breaths and anything that activates your diaphragm, in fact, right now, if you're going to practice this with me again, and you put your hands on the edge of your rib cage, right? So you just felt down for the bottom of your ribs and put your hands right there. You just kind of rested them flat on your rib cage so you can feel. Anything that expands that muscle, which is a dome-shaped muscle that connects to the bottom of your rib cage called your diaphragm, and that fills the lower half of your lungs. What happens is we're locked down so much of the time that we mostly only breathe with that when we're laughing or crying or yelling at somebody or trying to get somebody's attention if they're way across the street. But most of the time it's locked down like this. And so that means that we're breathing up here, right? Think about when you watch cats or dogs or very, very young children sleep, you will see their entire chest expand and contract with their breath. And think about watching adults, you don't see that. Right now, if there's any adult within your eyeline, all you have to do is look at them and you'll be like, huh, you know what? Yeah, their chest doesn't move when they breathe. In fact, look at me. My chest, my rib cage does not move unless I'm doing active exercises and consciously thinking about it. And so if you can contract the diaphragm, which is this super cool muscle that attaches underneath your ribs and goes all the way through your body, like it actually bisects your entire torso with just this like little hole that goes down into your stomach. And when it's actually like a whole series of little muscles, but when it contracts, your rib cage expands, and to make space, because the lower two lobes of your lungs, right? Your lungs are like top lobes, lower lobes, and these ones are getting too much work, and then these ones down here, it's only when you use your diaphragm to expand it up and fill all the way up. As soon as you get all that extra air, you are grounding your nervous system, calming yourself down, particularly if you do this square breathing thing. But then the connection from nerves management to acting is that if you get that extra air without forcing anything, you'll just have more power, you'll have more support, and you're much, much more likely to feel because of that lockdown quality. Once that releases, you are more likely to access whatever you are actually feeling. Okay, that's 4:30. Thank you for joining us for today, Monday, October the 26th. I have a pair of casting directors who is joining us on Thursday. This is the first casting director workshop we've had in a couple of months. Let me redo the bio that they sent me. This is Annalise Tilling and her partner, Erin Lilly. No, Erin Lally, sorry. Erin Lally and Annalise Tilling are Vancouver-based casting directors. Their recent credits include The Boy 2, starring Katie Holmes, upcoming Netflix feature Operation Christmas Drop, starring Alexander Ludwig, and such series as Jordan Peele's reboot of The Twilight Zone, big deal, Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, Nancy Drew, and iZombie. Both Annalise and Erin are passionate about film and television and thrive on the challenge of finding just the right performer to bring a character off the page and into life. As avid viewers of a wide range of genres, we do, of course, have our favorites. Erin particularly enjoys a good British cop drama with a little dry wit. Annalise likes to be fully immersed in worlds unlike our own, from period dramas to sci-fi and everything in between. Anyway, these are two cool humans, and they have been associates of Corinne and Heike, who are two of the biggest casting directors in Vancouver, in the sense they cast a lot of the features, a lot of the big money TV series that come through town. And they stepped up and started doing casting projects on their own just last year. So that means that they are unlikely to be jaded, and they've got good energy to share with us. And they're coming on Thursday from 4 to 4:30 to share their wisdom. So come in person if you can, or check the video. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.